On your feet! Get them going!
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Cross Examinations. We are doing Rise and Fall, Day 8. Once again, this is the daily devotional study from my church, The Rock. The Rock. I haven't got out of The Rock in 16 years. Has it been that long? No. 10 years? 8 years? 9 years. Something like that. I used to go to The Rock, Miles McPherson's church here in San Diego. But let me copy and paste. I know I'm doing this a little early today. I'm going to try to do it before I have to pick up my son from school. So greetings, A.S. Brunner and J.H.H. Properties. Thank you for being here nice and early. Zach Richmond, hello. Hey, I'm gonna get over. I'm posting. All right, join us here. And I'm posting the link over to the other channel where the preponderance of people will be hanging out. So if you want to fellowship in the chat and whatnot, early streaming, yeah, like I said, trying to get this. That it's hard when. So my brother-in-law is in town, and so my wife is out visiting with him, and my father-in-law, he's leaving tomorrow, but it's like that leaves me to pick up the kids at different times, and it's like, if I don't do it now and get out of here by 2:25 p.m. so I can go pick up one of my kids, or maybe 2:30. He can sit there and wait for a little bit. Then I can't do it until I don't know, till like 4 or something like that. It just gets really breaking up. And then I'm like trying to do it and then get drawn and quartered in, and it's like I need to do some afar today. So let's get going. Let me make sure view on YouTube. I just want to make sure I can forward or pin the link. All right, Blacklist Universe. I am pinning the message. So if you're watching on Blacklist Universe later in the show, right? Am I doing this right? Right up here in the pin message. That's where you click. Join us over on the other channel, and then you guys can chat while I'm babbling and schmabbling and not paying attention to the chat. But being as I am paying attention to the chat, I already said hi to Brunner, J and H, and Zach Richmond. Hello, Melissa Lester, Drake, Amy, Arlene is here. Hello. Oh, this is Blacklist, though. It always seems to come up with this channel first. Well, I hope the other channel isn't shadow banned again. That's why I stopped streaming on it for like a month and a half, because I was trying to reset it because I got shadow banned. And when you get shadow banned, it's like if you don't stream for 28 days, then I think it like resets your kind of system, and it allows you to like I said, reset your algorithms so that it clears the ban. I think that's what I've been told. Nobody knows the actual exact programming consistencies of what is this? Oh yeah, I bought a bunch of pepperoni sticks. I love these things. And at Bargain Market, they're like, anyways, sorry, ADD. Not that I actually have ADD or believe in it, but good. Arlene gets the cross-examinations notices. So seeing as I just jumped in here really quick, I am fairly unprepared because it's like, I can't just, I don't want to regurgitate the stuff that I've been doing on talking about the Apocrypha and whatnot on Twitter. But you know what? I can bring something up. And this isn't directly to do with the scripture or anything like that, but I made a point. This is about the culture war. And if you're a Christian, if you're even to the right of center, you realize that we exist in a culture war. We're in the middle of a weird social civil war in this country where the left is trying tooth and nail to drag the centrist towards the left by shaming people, by canceling people, by forcing culturally conservative Christian ideas out of the marketplace. And, there are movements and people who have been using this culture war platform to produce content in order to enrich themselves. And I made a point, and I hope that doesn't sound as nefarious as it probably does sound more nefarious than I mean it to say, but I was just very strongly trying to make the point that I did it here on Twitter. Share screen, because I very strongly believe this, and it's to me the culture war is vitally important, because we do want to change the culture for the better, right? Because oh my gosh, just look at the troon movement. That's a translation of the transsexual thing. They're forcing this concept onto children day in and day out, and that's going to have dramatic, painful conclusions for I don't know how to say it without 80% of those kids are going to Epstein themselves. That's and they're not doing it because they're truly dysmorphic. Like 10 years ago, if you knew a a person who was confused about their gender, I hate that word, um, their identity, they were generally truly uh, dysmorphic. They had a mental disagreement with their physical being. That is it's a mental illness, right? That categorically, well, up until about 10 years ago, the American Psychological Society and all the doctors would have agreed that that was a mental illness. Today, you're not even allowed to say it. I'll probably get flagged for having said that 10 years ago it was considered that. Um, but now, with all the social contagion, because the left is force feeding it down the throats of everybody, you've got a generation of kids thinking, oh, like the kids who want attention, who don't get it any other way, they're like, well, this is a way that I can get attention, right? Used to be you'd shave your head or get a mohawk, or, you know, paint your face all funny, smoke cigarettes, all this other stuff, whatever, for kids to like rebel and get attention. And now they're following this bizarre social contagion trend that, when they follow through with it, is going to sterilize them, eunuch size them. I don't know how they're going to chop off their bits. And when they get to a point in their life where they realize, oh, I'm not really that, am I? But gosh, my breasts are gone, or my penis is gone, or I've stapled on a tube of meat to my genitals. These people are going to off themselves. I'm so going to get shadow banned. The prior to this social contagion, when people had genuine gender dysmorphia, the suicide rate was 42% among transgenders. That's just across the board, when it was a real mental dysmorphic scenario. Imagine where it's going to be when it was a fad that the freaking mainstream media propagated onto these poor children who are just confused or looking for a way to get, or for the worst part, the Munchausen's parents. The Munchausen's parents are gone. They are all now proud parents of trans children. This is You're not a boy, are you? You're a girl, aren't you? You want to be a girl, don't you? Munchausen's parents. They're all gone now. They're all the proud parents of socially acceptable. Those kids are gonna off themselves. I would put hard Bitcoin on it. Those kids are in double the numbers they do now or previously. Oh, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. But this is part of the culture war that we're trying to fight, right? So I made the point on Twitter. It's like you can make money selling merchandise to your tribe, and that is good for you. But to change culture, you must create intellectual properties that reach people outside your tribe. The goal is culture, not cash. And I caveat that with if your goal is cash, disregard my statement. Aaron's is going to have both. There I did add where did I add to this? I also added uh da, 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 da. Dang it, where does the other post that I added? Oh, maybe I quote tweeted myself. To add to the point, in comics, it is not the flash art or popularity of a character that creates opportunities outside of the creator's tribe for expansion into mainstream media. It is the quality and depth of the story that transcends the comic book medium. Garbage tier writing on a pretty picture book will never be made into a movie or a cartoon or anything memorable that will change anything about our culture. Make sure your story matters to you and to your audience. And I just kind of use Image Comics as a example. Image was huge and it was big and it catered to all the comic book fans, and that wasn't the tribe, so to speak. But what got made into stuff that actually appealed to the mainstream culture? Did anybody care about Wildcats outside of comic nerds? No. Did anybody care about Youngblood outside of comic nerds? No. Did anyone care about Savage Dragon outside of comic nerds? No. Darkhawk? No. Uh, I mean, I could just go down and on. The only one that transcended comic books out of the original Image founders was Spawn, right? And me, sorry, Todd, I hate Spawn's artwork, but it had a unique, compelling story. It had a unique, compelling intellectual property. It wasn't just Hulk with a fin. It wasn't just redesigned X-Men, right? It wasn't just silver-headed Wolverine. It was compelling. It was addictive. It was up. Spawn succeeded. I mean, I know it got in the door of the collectors because a lot of people actually like Todd McFarlane's art, and that's great. That's great for him. But it was if Spawn didn't have such a good story, it would have been just like, yeah. There's a reason why when DC Comics bought Wildstorm from Jim, you pretty much didn't see Wildstorm anymore. Because none of his characters were compelling, none of his storylines were interesting, or that's funny. A lot of people say Spawn writing is bad. I found it good though. It it's the it's a unique and compelling story, right? It's not Spider-Man. I mean, he might have made Spawn so he could physically look a little tiny little bit like Spider-Man, with the eyes and stuff, but it was the unique, compelling nature of the story that broke Spawn out of the comic book dungeon, however you want to phrase it. I agree, the story is good. And that's what I'm asking for from all these creatives that are making hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars selling to their tribe. Again, if that's your goal, it's great. But if you're using the culture war as the platform from which you are making this money, realize that if you're doing a what's that called when you're doing something just to stroke your own, I don't want to say stroke your own ego, but it's basically you're stroking your own ego, right? Because you may have something of an idea, but if you're not a good writer and you refuse to hire a writer because you want to write, you want to be in control of this thing, but it's like if your concept isn't good enough to reach outside of the people who support you because you're Mr. Cool on the internet. First of all, yeah, it's my tribe. My tribe. First of all, 80% of the people buying your books aren't going to read it. If they're only buying your books to support you because it's a tchotchke that you're offering for sale, it's merchandise, they might as well be buying a hat or a hoodie or a toy because you're giving them merchandise. They're not buying it because they're comic readers. They've never read a comic before, and that's great. If you can get someone to read a comic they've never read it before, and your comic is compelling enough that they're like, this is an amazing art form, this is an amazing way to tell a story, then I think that's a success, right? As far as culture war stuff, because if it, like I said, if it's compelling and whatnot, it has the possibility of branching outside. I also, art doesn't matter in this context. Look at Top G. Top G, worst freaking, maybe not the worst. I've probably seen something worse, but horrible art. No offense to the artist. You're terrible though. Please stop or learn to draw. But he sells this thing. I don't know how much money he's making, but he's selling them hand over fist for $97 a pop. It's the same thing. You're selling a tchotchke to your tribe, right? To my tribe, as Jay Dalla says. And if that's the case, you're just making money. You're not fighting the culture war. And I think it's incumbent on people. Incumbent? Is that the right word? Whatever. I think I'm thinking of a different word. Maybe that's right. That if you have the means and the wherewithal to create great product, and instead you refuse to hire a great writer and work with a great writer to come up with a compelling, unique story that has a chance. I'm not saying that every unique story is going to break into, mass media, but we need great stories in order to break into mass media. If you want your property, your intellectual property, to make it to Netflix, you gotta write like Mark Miller, right? You gotta write like Neil Gaiman. You gotta come up with stuff that producers and people, they look past, because Mark Miller's based. Mark Miller's one of us. He gets his stuff published because his stuff is awesome. He comes up with unique, compelling stuff time after time after time. Oh, my point about art not mattering. How big of a cultural impact did Attack on Titan have, right? Have you seen that anime? It is horrible. It's almost as bad as Top G. The not the anime. Sorry, the anime is fantastic. The manga, the source material for that anime, which had a huge cultural impact. Terrible art, compelling original story idea. Mark Miller is top tier. I don't know. Why don't you draw a book for him? It could be Miller and Miller. I'd love to do a book with Mark. That'd be fantastic. I don't know that merch can persuade people to read comics. Maybe TV or movies, shows are better. That's what I'm saying. I want M&Ms. Yeah. Yeah, and then we can have Eminem do the soundtrack. um, there are people out there who think Pink Floyd is a clothing brand. Okay, that's weird. But that's kind of where I'm at. I think that's a message that needs to get out there, because there are people in our space, so to speak, making lots of money producing even high quality in terms of artwork stuff. But again, so did Image created lots of high quality visual stuff, unreadable dreck. And I hate to say it, because some of these guys are my friends, but I'm not going to point any fingers at who's who. Your beautiful comic book is unreadable dreck. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Please, for the love of all that is holy, if you care about the culture war, find a great writer to work with and stop trying to be a one-man band if you are not skilled enough to come up with good, compelling stories, because you may be making money. God bless you for paying the mortgage. You're not changing the culture at all. And you're not going to. Not with that stuff. The t-shirts are really popular. Oh, the Pink Floyd t-shirts. Yeah, agree, disagree. I'd love to hear some comments from the Peanut Gallery. You guys are the fellowship here. And I know I get a lot more comments when I'm railing against Catholic doctrine. But okay, Zach says, what's better, bad story and good art, or good story and bad art? I've rarely encountered both with CG books. You mean good story and good art, or bad story and bad art? I've seen that too. Yeah, good story and bad art is better. If you guys read Sandman, Neil Gaiman's a fantastic writer. He sometimes worked with artists that I could not stand, but I was still compelled to read those books because it was the story. I mean, a lot of times, I mean, you'll hear this from industry pros back and for decades, that it takes good art to sell an issue number 1. It takes good writing to sell an issue number 2, right? People will pick it up for the art and stay for the story. It's a truism across. I mean, you can. Again, I'm not going to name names here, but you can look at the different campaigns across Comicsgate, and you can tell who has good stories by their trajectory of their second, third issues. Hate to say it. There's good and good. There's plenty of bad and bad. Yes. Twitless says bad story and bad art is where it's at. Good story is more important. Yes. In fact, I remember, do you guys remember the Ultraverse? Right? The Ultraverse was the Image for creators. I mean, for writers. They were Malibu was focused on creating a place where good writers could come and create a universe. And yeah, they had some really compelling, unique stuff. And most of the art was also very good. Man, Solution was fantastic, even though the writer for that ended up being a pedo. But Jerry Jones was on Wonder Man, and dang, dude, Wonder Man was one of my favorite books at Marvel. Even though he's like this second, third tier Avengers character, it was the story, it was the writing, and it was just great. And then he came over to Ultraverse, along with all these other great writers. And Marvel bought Ultraverse and could have continued. It's like the DC buying Wildstorm thing, but what DC doesn't care about Washington. Even they own all that stuff. They could keep doing all that stuff. Marvel stopped the Ultraverse stuff from merging into Marvel. I'm fairly certain because the creator deal, you know how Marvel is with money, right? The creator deals is the creator royalties would have been too vast if Prime had become a Spider-Man level success for Marvel. They would be shoveling out money to the writer who, was that James Hudnall wrote that? I can't remember who the writer was on Prime, but that's just an example. They would have been shoveling out money they did not want to give out for the Ultraverse stuff. So Wonder Man was really cool. Yeah, Aaron Lopresti was on Sludge, which, I mean, the art was great, but I just didn't like the general. I've never been a Swamp Thing guy or a Man Thing guy or a Sludge guy. Just not my thing. So Arlene says, I will not read a story with bad writing, but I will read a good story and ignore bad art. Exactly. Meanwhile, when you have, that's what I'm saying, some of the people in the space that I'm talking about, they have great art. Some of them have art I can complain about, but fans seem to dig it. And if they would only work with exceptional writers and come up with unique IP ideas, then I think that would be such a fantastic thing for the culture war that would go against everything I said about this. So even comics that have good story many times don't hold up after 10 minutes of thought, like the phenomena where you love a movie leaving the theater but realize it's trash after the drive home. Yeah, but here's the thing. You can have even not like 10 out of 10 writing, like Spawn, for example, right? It's not 10 out of 10 writing, but the concept itself and the story hold enough unique and interesting and compelling concepts that if you are a fantastic writer, like Neil Gaiman came in and wrote Spawn, you could take that and run with it. Or if you're a producer and you have great script writers, you can take that unique, compelling story and turn it into a movie or an anime or whatever. It doesn't have to be 100%. I'm not asking everybody to go out there and hire Neil Gaiman to be their co-writer, right? But there are good writers. Okay, here is a problem. Some of these guys drawing these books, they're barely freaking literate and they're writing their own books. So if you're barely literate, you don't know what a good writer is. So you might go and hire a writer because he's your friend from college, like Jim Lee did. But you don't know what good writing is. So you don't know that your friend who has been telling you he's a writer all these years is also not a good writer. Oh man, if there was some way we could just funnel the good writers to the good artists, team them up, and it might be just a money thing. These artists, they don't want to share with their writers. They don't want to cut, just like Marvel didn't want to cut in the Ultraverse. These guys, they make $100,000. They don't want to cut their writer in on 50% or 25% or whatever it is, or just pay him a page, whatever it is, plus royalties. They want all the money for themselves. So it could be greed. It could just be not knowing that you're a bad writer and being completely unwilling to listen to all the people. Or you could be in a position where people are afraid to tell you what a bad writer you are. That's a scary place to be. When people are all up in your crotch telling you how good of a writer you are, but really you suck. And nobody outside of your tribe is ever going to read more than 3 pages of your book. That is a scary place to be. It's like the emperor has no clothes, right? The emperor has no clothes. I've heard some people say Gaiman isn't that good, but I haven't read a lot of his stuff. Shrug. Sandman was fantastic. I mean, maybe not every single issue, but man, that was when I got my DC comps back in the day. Sandman, the writing wise, Sandman was like the highlight of that long box or that short box. DC would literally send me like a short box every month because that's how much stuff they publish. Sandman and Gaiman are both overrated in my opinion. Yeah, but Twitless, nobody listens to your opinion. First arc of Sandman had too much navel gazing for me. Arlene says I read comics for a break from reality, so I don't ponder it and expect realism, but I do expect that the storyline be cohesive. Amen, amen. 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Oh, I think Mike nailed it. I think a lot of folks are scared of criticism. True. And some people are just horribly, horribly bad at accepting criticism. Not naming any names. But you know who will. You know who is. Yes, I did really say all up in your crotch. I've heard that Sandman was good. Yeah, Sandman's great. Sandman is great. Then who owns the book? The writer? The Sonic Archie book was their best series, and one former writer for the series sued them and shut the whole line down. Well, good fences make good neighbors, Amy. If you're co-creating, so here's the thing. If you have a great idea, a great concept, and it is unique, but you can't write well, then bring on a writer, not as a co-creator, but bring him on as hired talent, right? I love your writing. Here's my story. I would like you to flesh out my story. I'll give you blank percentage on the back end, or I'll pay you a page rate. It's just like a colorist, right? It's like I don't cut my colorist in on co-creator status, right? But if you have a middling idea and you've got some great character designs, I'm sorry, I'm bleeding way over. I should be into the Bible study by now. And you've got some great character designs and you've got a middling idea, but you know a writer who's excellent writer, as good as a writer as you are as an artist, if you're a good artist. And they can bring unique, compelling angles and concepts to your illustrations. You make them a co-creator. That is a co-creator. And then you cut them in for a larger percentage of the... Look, it ranges all over the place. Robert Kirkman, you know how Robert Kirkman kept getting fantastic artists to work with him, even when he was starting right at the beginning of Image, when, you know, Walking Dead was only selling 5,000 copies, and you know, Invincible, same thing with Invincible. The reason he got great artists to work with him was A, as much as I don't like the guy personally, he's a great writer. When he's actually on the ball writing. Sometimes he just phones stuff in. But B, he gave his co-creator 80% of profits. 80%. Because he knew he could sit down and write a script in a day or two, but the artist is going to take a month to do it, right? So he knew the balance of writing versus the balance of work in writing versus art. But I guarantee you they didn't get 80% of the movie revenue. All right. I'm going to jump in. Again, this is culture war stuff, so it is related to Christianity in the sense that we, as Christians, we are here. We need to fight the culture war, either through our time, our talent, or our treasure. Do something. If you got the time, the talent, be a creative force. If you've got the treasure, support the creative people in this space who are actually fighting the culture war. I'm not telling you not to buy somebody's stuff just because you like them. No, absolutely not. Do whatever you want. It's your money. But if the point of your money is to fight the culture war, find the people who you believe are producing content that can reach. Even if you think Lone Star is crap, don't support me then. I'm not telling you not to support me. I'm just telling you it's like, if you think Lone Star is crap and could never do anything for the culture war, then, go find something that will. But support the people you believe are truly fighting the culture war. And part of that is doing this stream every day where I get into, what are we on now? We are in 1 Samuel chapter 8, where I get into the scriptures. I know I have that somewhere else. Let's go to King James Version Online. King James Bible Online. And again, if you are new here and you want to follow along in this daily devotional, if you join the Discord, link is in the description if it still works. I keep copying and pasting it, so it might be old. If not, could somebody grab it from the Discord, drop it in the chat? This is available digitally on the Discord in the cross-examinations tab as the pinned comment. So I should just put it in the description. Maybe I'll start doing that too. All right, so 1 Samuel chapter 8. Let us go. Winning with Jesus. Yay, yes. Yeah, Zach. I talked to Ryan Otley one time early in his Invincible days after he had gotten on the book. And I told him the story about Stan Sakai, about how, decades into Usagi Yojimbo, the book is still middling in sales, right? Usagi Yojimbo sells like 3,000 copies a month for the trade, not the trade, the individual issues. Not a moneymaker at all for Stan Sakai. But by now, he's probably got 30 or 40 trade paperbacks, each of which sell 2,000 to 3,000 copies per year, which again isn't huge, but you add that up and the royalties on that is crazy. So I told that story to Ryan and I'm like, no matter what page rate Marvel or DC or anybody else comes at you with, because he told me he was getting 80% on Invincible. I don't know if that's public. That's probably not public. Sorry. I told him never, ever leave this book until it ends, because at the end of the day, you are going to be sitting on a mountain of royalties. And he never left the book. He didn't start working for Marvel until Invincible ended. So I don't know if I helped him make that decision, but I'm very glad he did. Because at the time, Invincible was not, it certainly wasn't making him rich, but it was doing well enough and it was a good book and it was gaining momentum. Again, because Kirkman wrote a good, compelling story. Let's wrap that up because that's what we were talking about. Talk about the best, most compelling story ever in the history of mankind. Let's read the Bible. The 1 Samuel chapter 8. And it came to pass. Let's double check and make sure that's where we're at. Yes. And it came to pass that when Samuel was old, then he made his sons judges over Israel. Which corrects me when I said that Samuel was the last judge, right? His sons were clearly judges. It says so right here. But they weren't judges anyone was going to write a book about. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Arlene, for posting that up. Let's see what we've got. All right, we got Blacklist. I think everybody's over on the cross-examinations page. Oh, we got 7 people over there. 2 people are watching over on Blacklist Universe. Once again, oh, it's Twitless. Are you over there by yourself? Twitless, come over. Come click the link over in the corner and come over to the other channel. Join the peoples. All right. Now, the name of his firstborn was Joel, and of his second, Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. Clearly not the same Joel as Joel the prophet, because these guys walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, that's money, and took bribes and perverted judgment. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah. And they said unto him, Behold, thou art old. Just point blank, "You're getting old, Sammy, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations." Yes, they wanted to be like everybody else. Not unique, set apart, God's chosen people. We just want to be like everybody else because everybody else is so cool, right? They're chopping off their wingdings and taking estrogen. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, "Give us a king to judge us." And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. And the Lord, let me turn this off. And the Lord said unto Samuel, "Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, and do they also unto thee." Sorry, hold on. Well, Samuel was the last one talked about. Yes, exactly. Unto thee. And now therefore hearken unto their voice. Howbeit, dang it, what is wrong with my voice today? Howbeit, yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them. In other words, tell them what kind of a crappy king they're going to have. And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked of him a king. Now, just to backtrack, the people probably knew, because it was prophesied in earlier books, that there would be a king in Israel at some point. God's timing was to have David be the king. But the people, I guess they were tired of not being like everybody else, and they wanted their own king in their own timing. This is why very important. You pray for something, wait for God's timing, and don't try to force things. And that's a lesson for myself. And he said, "This will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots to be his horse and to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. Uh, and he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over fifties, and will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries, to be cooks, to be bakers. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take a tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give his officers and to his servants." And keep in mind, this is a tenth on top of the tenth they give to tithe. So that's 20% off the top for the Jews. "And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your asses, and put them to work." He's going to put your asses to work. It's in the Bible. I didn't say, it's right there. "He will take a tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you, and the Lord will not hear you in that day." That's right. He's going to give you a king because you asked for it, and then he's not going to take him away because you're begging for it. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, "Nay, but we will have a king over us, even after you told us exactly what he's going to be like. And you're a prophet of God, speaking God's word." Good thinking. That we also may be like all other nations. We just want to be like everybody else. Come on. We want to go with the flow. We want to follow the culture. The culture. "And that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles." And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, Hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, Go ye every man unto his city. A really weird chapter break, but you know, uh, put your hands to it. That's right. Twitler said Thomas Paine cites this verse in his invective against monarchies. Amen. Nothing really changes. The government is still greedy and abusive. We don't call it king. No, we call it dog-faced pony soldier. Yeah. All right. Day 8. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm out of voice. My chopping up my voice and everything. Oh, sci-fi is life. You're over there. Oh my gosh, there's 4 people watching over on Blacklist. Please go over right here, click this link, get on over to the other channel where everybody else is so you can chat amongst the others. Otherwise, I can pull up your chats here on StreamYard, but if you guys want to have fellowship and conversation, it's over on the other channel. And do like and subscribe if you're over there. So, daily devotional, again, go to the Discord, and if you want a digital copy of this to follow along, you can get on down there. Go to the Discord. Link is in the description in the chat. It's also go to the cross examinations tab, and it's the pinned comment. All right. Like the other nations, we live in a time where the separation between the cultural norms and what is true, moral, and just seem farther apart than most can remember. While that perspective is narrow, morality and culture ebb and flow throughout history. It's very funny, huh? This is very much in line with what I was talking about, the culture war today. And I did not read ahead. God works in funny ways. I think we can agree that foundational understandings are dissolving at a rapid pace. Thus, that's because the left owns the media, academia, and the White House. That's how they're making this happen. So that's why we do need the parallel economies and to have people who are willing to create content to fight the culture war. Thank God we live in a day and age when the mainstream media is losing its grasp on getting information to people, and pretty much only really left-wing people still listen to like MSNBC. Anyways, thus the dilemma we face as Christians: will we blend into what is socially acceptable, or will we set apart by a life rooted in the truth? The latter. There are many factors to consider when studying Scripture, but the 2 I want to focus on are fruit and truth, and not just loquats. Fruit can be defined as results based on evidence that we can examine, while the truth is God-given purpose behind the evidence we see. In today's reading, the demand the Israelites had for a king, fruit, was rooted in the phrase, then we can be like all the other nations, truth. God knew all along that the Israelites would want a king, and even gave them parameters for how to select one. The problem isn't that Israel wanted a king. It's that they wanted one so they could be, quote, like all the other nations, right? They just wanted to follow the mainstream media culture. This is correct. God calls us to stand out from society and be a light. God knew all along that the Israelites would want a king, and even gave them parameters. Oh, I already said that. Even after God's explicit outline of the results of doing things like other nations, the people just didn't get it or didn't care. They no longer desired it to be God who fought their battles for them. They insisted on a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles. Throughout the scripture, we see God use people in society who you might not expect. Jacob, secondborn; Rahab, prostitute; David, shepherd; Jesus, Matthew, tax collector; Paul, Pharisee. And the list goes on. When we see the works done through these unexpected people, there is no other explanation than the obvious work of God and the understanding that He cares about our hearts, not our appearance. The Israelites clearly didn't know God and have the understanding if they did, and have that understanding if they did, their request would have been to have a king to be like God. Instead, the fruit of the Israelites' demand for a king is to be like other nations, rooted in the truth. Oh, was rooted in the truth that God didn't sit on the throne of their hearts. Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm reading ahead. Um, the pull to fit in with today's culture and norms is challenging. Even saying nothing at all is deemed as taking a stand. Society will look at the fruit seen through the evidence of action to determine what we believe, so the mission becomes building life on a rock founded in truth. Your actions will point a direct line to who sits on the throne of your heart and who is glorified in your life. Don't let the desire to be like other nations be the sand you build your life on. Amen. Wow, that's a great one. Zach Plum. That was by Zach Plum today. Like other nations. Sorry. It's so dark in here. I need to turn my light on so I can actually read. Oh, gosh. But then I get all washed out. Whatever. I don't care how I look. All right. Questions for today. What areas of your life do you find yourself trying to be like other nations? I mean, in general, I'm pretty counterculture. I don't know if you guys know that about me. But I would say, like, some of the entertainment that I'm willing to accept, uh, it's not the most godly. I'm not just watching Christian TV, you know. I will listen to, gosh darn it, I love Salty Cracker, but that dude just swears so much. It's like, I first of all, I never want to listen to it when my kids are in the room, although I tend to because I've heard them. I've heard them with the earphones, and like they'll be playing with people, and people are swearing. You can't get people online to stop swearing. It's really, really. Man, I remember a time, and I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. People didn't swear everywhere. No kids in my public school upbringing in middle school or in junior high and middle school. No, in elementary and middle school. Nobody swore in a public school. I remember, well, more in middle school they did, but in elementary school, nobody. I remember saying shut up in class once, and like the kids were like, oh, we're gonna tell the teacher, because I was like, she left me in charge of the class, and everybody's getting out of hand. And I was like, everybody sit down and shut up. This was like second grade. That was, we're gonna tell the teacher you said shut up. Like that was a bad swear in second grade in the 70s. And nowadays it's like you go in the middle, and you know what it is? It's because parents back then wouldn't swear in front of kids. And which was totally hypocritical, right? Because they would swear amongst each other. But they wouldn't swear in front of kids because they knew swearing wasn't good. It wasn't a benefit for society. We had some level of Judeo-Christian ideology in this country still. And nowadays it's flipping everywhere. I see kids, still tiny children swearing, and parents swearing right in front of their kids all the time. Like it's just it kills me. It kills me. And it's really fun. I don't I'm not going to be able to get to the rest of this stuff if I don't do it, because I got to leave like in 4 minutes. What? Mike goes against the grain sometimes. When I was a kid, swearing was punishable. That's right. I got a bar of soap in my mouth. My brother, when he said the F word in front of my mom, he got the snot slapped out of him. When he said the F word in front of my dad literally threw him up the stairs. Like, woo! But yeah, nowadays, oh, it's terrible. Anyways, question 2. I'm running out of time. When reflecting on the fruit of your life, what truth is your action founded on? How does this play out in your day-to-day life? Well, I hope that my fruit benefits the kingdom. That's my prayer in my life. That's my theme song. All I wanna be is a tool in your hand. And I know I'm not perfect. And I know I do things that are probably bad witnesses here and there. I mean, I try to be as good a witness as I can because my kids are always around me. And just because I have a two-tier thing. I want to do well for my Father in heaven, and I want to do well for my children on earth. So I want to be able to balance that and ride that line as well as I can. And I fail. We all do. But hopefully I do. Hopefully I make a difference to some people, especially my children, obviously, especially my children. But my goal is to affect the culture in a greater way. That is my vision and my goal. So question number 3, what do you need to do to have Jesus sit on the throne of your heart? Right steps you can take this week or changes you can make to put Jesus above all else. I mean, honestly, this is what I'm doing. I'm dedicating an hour a day to sharing his gospel and trying to do it as my first real thing as soon as I can fit it in the day. And that's why it's never at the same time. And I apologize if you want a regularly scheduled program, but I try to find an hour I can fit it in the day. My days are sometimes very haphazard. So that's what I am doing. Is it enough? I could pray more. I could dedicate more time to prayer. I listen to my Bible almost every day. I don't know. If you have an answer, please do leave it in the comments section after the show, or join us in the Discord and continue the conversation in the cross-examinations link. All right, here we go. The daily prayer. I got to get out of here unless my daughter's going to pick up Micah. Daily prayer is, God, help me to live my life in a way that glorifies you. If there are areas of my life that aren't set apart, please reveal those to me so that I might be more like you. Thank you for giving Jesus as an example of what life rooted in truth looks like. Good prayer, good study. Zach Plum, thank you. That was very apropos. To, I mean, I guess that would be God that put that on my mind and coordinated it with the actual lesson, because I came in blind. I didn't have a clue what I was going to talk about, and it ended up being very copacetic with exactly what was in the reading today. So God is good. I mean, if you guys remember the last time I went through one of these studies, man, God was lining up the previous daily devotionals with what the stuff that was going on in my life. It was really, really bizarre. Unfortunately, YouTube deleted probably all of those because it was on my older channel, but they're still on my Facebook. If you go to Afar on Facebook, they're probably all still back there, but none of you are going to go watch them. It's hard enough to keep up with the stuff I do on the daily now. But I want to thank everybody for being here. I do have to bow out and go get my son. Please leave a comment. Let's continue the conversation in the comment section. It really does help the algorithm as well. So thanks everybody for being here once again. I hate to be redundant, but God bless you. Have a fantastic God-filled day, and do what you can to be part of the fight for the culture. The culture war can be won. By God's will, it will. Peace.
Back in line, you dog! On your feet! Get them going!